Allegiance, please.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, guys,
Roll call, please.
hold on. Mr. Long,
Here.
Mr. Craig,
Here.
Dr. Carpenter,
Present.
Ms. Showalter.
Present.
Okay, I didn't see you up there. President Suchovich,
Present.
Mayor Recupero,
Present.
Mr. Flota, Ms. Provenza. Present. Thank you.
And you're present.
Yes, I'm always here. I actually have an emergency agenda item.
Okay,
I would like to add handicap parking spot requests.
okay.
So if we could add
We
those.
need a motion to add that.
I'll make that motion.
First by Dr. Carpenter, second. Second by Mr. Craig. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Passed.
Thanks, guys.
Will that go under,
It'll go under motions after that.
okay,
It'll go under what?
Motions after that.
Motion?
Yeah,
it'll go under action items.
it'll go under action item,
Oh, well, we need to discuss it.
which means it has to go to action item.
On the borough manager.
I think Nancy's saying we need to discuss it before it goes
We
to,
can put it with the borough manager
Yeah.
at the end if you
Okay.
want, that's fine, but
Under-
yeah.
anything else under that? Registered comments from the public. We have one. We have Jesse Swisher from the Community Garden.
Jesse,
Jesse, if you'd stand and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jessie, spelled Jessy Swisher at 108 Gernert Drive in Verona.
108 Vernon.
Gernert,
How do you spell that?
Gernert.
Okay, thank you.
And Hills.
Yes, yeah, that's, I just need to, that's perfect.
And I'll just ask you to move to the next.
Hi,
Okay, so just to introduce myself, my name is Jessie. I am involved with the core garden team of the community garden as the financial tracker. We're gonna give a presentation here today. I'm also with my partner, Daryl Fry. So a little background about myself. I have a master's degree in food studies. And so I bring my passion for local food and sustainable agriculture to be able to be involved with my community garden. And I'm really excited about that. The summary of our request here, and my partner, I'd like to say also is a practicing permaculture teacher and consultant. Permaculture is ecological design. He's also published 2 books on gardening and permaculture related topics, is a skilled builder and is licensed contractor in the city of Pittsburgh. So our request here today is for the Verona Community Garden to operate as its own independent entity that reports directly to council. Another suggestion was to consider issuing a written charter if needed. We'd also like to continue having access to use of the land and water as was previously provided. I'd like to just summarize our 2022 year in review. It was a very successful year for the first year operating the garden. As you can see some of the photos here. Just in case you haven't been down to the site in a while, you can see some of the infrastructure that was put in place, the raised beds, everything growing and flourishing down there, the shed, some also temporary beds, little native plantings, and etc. Next slide, please.
you got it.
These are some of the harvests. So first harvest was mulberries from the tree on site, and then things like kale, collards, and squash. Next slide. We also had a successful food donation program. 10 of our beds were dedicated to community growing space. Half of that was corn, so it's really 9.5 dedicated to growing produce. And from the produce that we got, we yielded 220 pounds that were donated, 80 pounds to community members that came to visit on work days, and 140 pounds that were donated to the food pantry at the Verona United Methodist Church on Center Avenue. That food donation program is going to continue this year, but will look a little different as we're going to have more beds rented out this year now that there's much more interest in renting at the garden. We also held a dedication ceremony on November 5th, thanks to the mayor for speaking there. We had great speakers, food, and corn shelling and milling demo. Next slide. So the way that we would like the garden care team to operate is we have a core group of members. All these things were done last year with a very dedicated and skilled group of core team members. A couple were pictured here on this first slide. So first of all, we have each person dedicated to a certain task they'll be undergoing, like Laura working on the grants, and as well as assistant communications and outreach coordinator. And Trish is going to be the main communications and outreach coordinator. So the two of them tasking that together. Jenny Manners is going to be the supplies coordinator, looking at organizing the shed, tracking supplies and equipment and things like that. Myself, working on financial tracking along with Mike Rabacki, who's here today as the assistant financial tracker. Next slide. Trish, Redzak Showalter, again, working on communications and outreach, doing kind of our social media, doing a lot of promotions for events and our email list. Herb Burns is going to work as the site maintenance manager, so mowing and just making sure everything stays looking good on the site. We also had discussed potentially the need for an event or workshop organizer that is still open, but in the meantime, we've all stepped in to fulfill this role. So different people have as we're going to see in a later slide, taken it upon themselves to coordinate different workshops and educational opportunities through the garden this year. Next slide. Oh, we have Kim Roller also working on graphics, Rhea Homa coordinating as our liaison with Grow Pittsburgh, and Mike Rabacki serving as a volunteer coordinator and policing our beds and conducting new member orientation. These are some of our pledged operational guidelines. So first of all, the mission of the garden is to provide a growing space and a safe haven social gathering place, and to serve as a source for local food pantry contributions and a gardening hands-on educational center. So some of the specifics to that is we have 18 plant beds total and 2 half beds. That includes our rental beds available to folks on a first come, first served basis, prioritized to Verona residents. There are some beds open to those in need without charge, as well as beds for educational purposes. We have proposed a $25 fee for each bed rental as on a sliding scale. We welcome all volunteers without restrictions. Next slide. Again, our request is for the borough to continue providing the water. There is no other budgetary dollars to be issued for this project from the council. We also commit to having no impervious structures erected without the borough consent. The council can also terminate, this is just a proposed suggestion, the relationship with the tenant with 30 days, issuing a request to 2 of the garden care members. And then if they want to repurpose the lot, at least give us a year's notice to do that, written to 2 standing garden care members. We're using all organic gardening techniques, so no chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, or the like. And then we're also recommending to our sites to donate some of their harvests. Next slide. We're limiting it, so people are not using any equipment over 6.5 horsepower. So lawnmower is really the strongest thing. So there's not gonna be tillers and need for things for people to cut their hands on any large machinery or anything like that. So we're not restricting the sale of produce, but no sales will happen on site. And also the trees, we know about the limit of not exceeding the 20 feet tall limit without the borough consent. There are 2 pre-existing trees that won't be cut down or excessively trimmed, again, without the borough consent. The gates are not locked, the shed is locked, and then we'll look to have a private bank account to served by our treasurer to oversee the bed rental fees and any other funds associated with the garden. There was a consideration for nonprofit status, which we can, which we can consider going forward, but that's not our current purpose here today. We're looking at a couple upcoming improvements. So we did already put in this spring 2 half beds. That puts us at the 18.5. We're looking to put in a pavilion, some benches, a circular garden that's 8 feet in diameter, using the repurposed brick pavers, adding a gravel floor to the shed. And then there's also the potential for some off-grid solar power from one of our garden care team members who is a specialist on that. Next slide. So you all have the printouts of this, which is good because it might be hard to see on the screen, the before and after shots of the current garden and what it's going to look like after these improvements. Next slide. So here's the current layout of our beds. We currently have 12 beds issued as rental beds, 5 for educational purposes, and then a couple others that are shared community garden space. This year, we already have in excess of 12 people looking to rent, so we're looking to different arrangements of how we can accommodate the most people as possible, possibly reducing some of the community spaces and educational spaces, and also looking amongst our core team members to partner 2 people sharing a bed. Next slide. We also have a couple workshops and events planned for 2023. Starting on April 11th, we had a homeschool group planting event, which had about 15 students come out to the site. They had a lesson on organic gardening, made seed bombs, planted onions, and planted seeds to take home. And several of the parents reported that it was a very successful event and they want to do more like that. If you see in the right-hand column, this is each of the core garden team members who are responsible either as a liaison or for coordinating this event. And that was Jenny Manners. Our library story time is taken up by Trish, coordinating with the, I believe, Penn Hills Library to do a summertime reading in the garden series. Daryl Fry here with me today doing a crop rotation series so that people understand the importance of crop rotation for building the soil, and we can try to reduce pests and disease in the garden. And then Mike also here today doing something on mini solar for portable energy, and myself doing grains. So that was one of my main interests. I mentioned my master's in food studies. And so what I've done is gone around the city of Pittsburgh to try to encourage people to be interested in growing grains and learning about grains. We did that in the garden last year and again this year. Next slide. I have a couple photos from some of these grain related demos. On the left is a corn milling that Nina Monroe, who was one of the folks who dedicated the garden to us, practicing at our dedication ceremony. And we did some wheat planting last fall and just showing a photo of what the wheat looks like today. Next slide. So these next few slides are an inventory. You have this in the black and white printed out version, which is going to be better. So we'll just quickly go through these next 3 slides. Basically, this just enumerates all the things we have on the site, from trees, shrubs, to the shed, different garden beds and structures, down to the tools like the lawnmower and hand tools and things like that. Going. These forms also you have printed out. So we're in the stage of drafting on a yearly basis our community garden waiver and hold harmless form. And next slide, as well as our community garden agreement. So everyone that is participating will sign off on this agreement. Next slide. So the funding, this is where we get to 2022 and 23. We're under Grow Pittsburgh, so they're absorbing all of our expenses. It is about $200 per year, just operating costs. So that doesn't include, obviously, the installation of the infrastructure, which really came to us for free. So as we looked at 2024 and beyond, where we can get funding to finance this project are the bed rental fees. So if we do have 12 beds rented out at the $25 rate, that'll be $300. We can also solicit private in-kind donations. We have access to the Grow Pittsburgh Garden Resource Center, which provides supplies, tools, compost amendments, things like that. We can apply for the Grow Pittsburgh Sustainability Fund, which is available twice a year. There's no 501c3 status required of that. We can apply for additional grants. For that, we might have to partner with, another entity to fall under a 501c3. And we also discussed the potential to host a fundraising event such as the Botany and Foods type of So here's our projected operational cost. You see it's on a sliding scale from 200 to 500. So we've been encouraged by our Grow Pittsburgh liaison to really think scrappy and to consider how many other community gardens really get by on a scrappy basis. Soliciting, again, in-kind donations, requesting. So for example, if we're looking for seeds to plant and garden, asking our garden corps members to donate those seeds instead of needing to go out and purchase them. So you see the water we're requesting to be supplied by the borough. That's an estimated cost of around $300 per year. And we also have the option to reduce water usage by capturing rainwater off the shed and the future pavilion and storing it in rain barrels. The soil amendments can range from $0 to $300. Obviously, we're going to try to keep that on the lower range, probably around 160 with that Grow Pittsburgh Garden Resource membership. Structures, upkeep and improvements, this really is on an as-needed basis, might range from 0 to 50. Tools and maintenance, this is going to include things like gasoline for the lawnmower and line trimmer on a 0 to 100 range. Seeds and seedlings, again, on a sliding scale of 0 to 50. So our total costs, we're looking at 200 to 500. And so we think that this will sufficiently be covered with the bed rental fees and other in-kind donations. Are there any questions?
Big one.
Yeah.
So if you want us to do this, the biggest thing I'm saying is, we currently insure that property. Who do you inspect to insure that property when you're filling out full harmless agreements and stuff like that? Because I do have to take this to a lawyer. Our solicitor is gonna question that. There's a difference between leasing something from us and asking us for water and asking us to continue to insure something when we have no say.
Yeah. And I'd like to also open it up for any of the team members who are joining by Zoom today. I'll give it a stab, but if I say something wrong, please correct me. So I think that, I'd like to know if there are any issues for the council to continue to insure the property.
There would be issues if you're asking people to sign hold harmless agreements that would not be borough created. And I'm not sure our solicitor would be, we would have to go to our solicitor. You're asking us to give up quite a bit of liability here.
So if the borough created the agreements that.
I'm
could
not
be-
sure. We have to
Okay.
talk to the attorney.
Uh-huh.
There's a difference between, for example, being a nonprofit and a community giving a building out and them insuring that building and doing all the things that need to be done to take care of that building, or us insuring something that we don't have a lot of control over. I'm not saying we want 100% control. I just need to know, it again comes down to like, it's always for the borough, and this is my job, not as much it is the liability issue. And I'm gonna, I have to continue to look at that, and that's what my biggest concern is. I see the borough has to give water. That's not what the borough would be giving.
Yeah, another thing we did talked about the potential for partnering with a 501c3, which, for example, the Verona Garden Club mentioned that they have liability insurance that could cover us. So that's one potential avenue that we could explore if needed. Does anyone want to add anything on the issue of the liability?
I have a question. I understand the liability issue, but when I read. You guys plan on leaving the gates unlocked at night. Not even injury liability, but if that happens, then I feel that all the equipment that was listed in this presentation would also need to be insured in case someone were to go down there at night, break into the shed and steal stuff. It would have to be insured. That's a concern
And currently understand, we're not being robbed. That is current, we're currently insuring you for all of that. If that piece of property is in our insurance, I've checked it out. So that's why we're asking all these questions, because we're just trying to figure out how that works. Because part of the reason that property doesn't pay taxes is because it's a piece of borough property. we bought.
Yeah, I think I think it would remain a piece of borough property, right? I mean, we're not asking to be called the owners of the property,
But
right?
you're
So
at-
does
you would
that,
be asking to lease it.
okay. So yeah, going back to Vince, the question about locking it at night, I think, you know, if that's a concern, we can address whether it should be locked at night.
I mean, that's not, that was just an example, I just. I was stating that. The. Liability was mentioned about personal injury, and I think that's good, that's being looked at, but I think we have to look at. Not only personal injury, but. Property damage, and that need to be insured also.
Yeah, I mean, because like the shed is locked, and so you could say, if we put a lock on the fence, they could scale the fence and go in and still do, you know what I mean? So I don't know if that's gonna achieve much extra, because the shed is already locked, and that's where the equipment is. So if someone breaks into that, you know, maybe we put up some no trespassing after hours signs or something to cover like a legal basis, I don't know.
Yes, it's just to the point now, we gotta find all the legalities out through.
It's
through
gonna
our
have to be with
solicitor.
our solicitor. We're gonna do that. Sir, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I've run nonprofits that cities have owned buildings before. It's just, the expense is not just water for us. And
But yeah, so there's an expense associated with the
if,
hiring the lawyer and,
well,
going through the liability.
I'm worried about, honest to God, at this point, who's covering the liability on all of this? If it's us, then. You know, there's gonna have to be certain rules we have to set forth just to cover that. If it's you, you're gonna have to prove to us that you have the liability. So that nothing can happen, because at the end of the day, even if we lease you the property, we still technically own the property.
When are you, I'm sure yous are going to be in there very soon, because planting season's coming next month, pretty much. That depends on the weather too.
yeah.
So, do you have a date as far as when you need to get in there and start planting?
Well, there was supposed to be a planting day last Saturday that was rained out, so this Saturday, I believe they'll be in there working on that.
So I guess my recommendation to the board is to, work on it as soon as possible, so they could, so we could resolve this, and so. You all could get in there and start doing what you have to do.
I guess my statement to that would be then, as far as it is right now, we currently carry the insurance, we currently carry the liability, nothing should change. And I understand if you could send reports just to the borough, so we know what's going on.
Mhm.
We can go from there from this point.
Yeah.
Stephanie, when's this policy due that we paid for already?
It's already done.
It's
So-
done for the year?
Yeah, it's done for the year. So for us, right now, it's done. So we are legitimately, we've insured that piece of property. I don't have a problem if it rain, I mean, if you guys keep the money for the feds and all that stuff, if our attorney doesn't have a problem with it. I just think that there needs to be an understanding that until we figure this all out, it's still borough property and we still have to have some say in that.
I think that's part of my concern is, what needs to come to us.
Yeah.
Like you have it here, but no impervious structures. As far as I'm concerned, there should be no permanent structures. Anything that's going in there permanently,
Yeah.
we need to approve. Not
Yeah.
saying.
Oh, yeah,
the
for sure, like,
plantings and all that,
right.
but like a walkway is permanent.
The only walkways are grass.
As
Is
long-
that what you mean? It's real
Well, no, there's
pathways.
talking about an inlaid earthen material with an
I-
underlayment.
I'm not sure what that comment was about.
It's.
See,
Brick
that's a
pathway.
permanent structure that needs to be.
Need permit.
addressed.
Okay, that's good to
That-
know.
that
So
would be
for a
great.
brick pathway, we would need permit.
Yeah, we would,
Anything permanent,
Yeah.
not the plantings, not,
we would ask a homeowner for approval on that.
Inside the garden fence for a brick
Yeah,
pathway?
there.
Okay,
Oh, they actually put two new.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, of course, the pavilion, obviously, we know we would need to get permission, but if we're talking about brick pathway inside the garden, we will come
I
for
mean-
permission as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I heard was we need to send reports to the group, just
If
let
you
us
send
know
reports-
what frequency that would need to be,
Once a
whatever you
month?
need
Once a
exactly.
month is fine with me. I'm not saying, and I don't want anybody to think from the council or anybody. My job is to protect you guys. I'm looking at this as. I want this community garden to work. I think you guys will make it work. I just need to know what's going on until we can all figure out. What the liability issues are.
So with the send reports once a month, will we just email them
Just so
to
you
you?
know me.
And just like, what are the activities we
Yeah,
can
what's
do?
going on?
Or,
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
have to be anything major.
and so you mentioned the policy is done for the year, it's insured for the year. Is this the calendar year?
It is
2023?
insured from now, May, well, it's insured from right this moment until May of next year.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, once we find out what is needed as far as that goes, we can move forward with, pursuing whether we need to do the 501c3 status or whether this arrangement will work out.
Yeah,
And then if there's additional costs, that you're incurring, if we could just know what they are to understand the scope of things, that would be helpful.
And you said you did talk to the garden club?
Verona Garden.
Club possibly going under their 501c3?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there are some drawbacks to that. That's why it's not our first choice and the focus of the presentation, but yes, we did, and we can explore that.
and I don't think that's the answer. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
trying.
Yeah, or another nonprofit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could
We
be,
just gotta cover our butts.
yeah.
I should add something, jumped off, drove it for my experience, staying off.
There's nothing that says to me, after we talk to our solicitor, that says we can't hold liability on it as long as there are full harmless agreements written to the county, and then all ordinance that are within the count, within the borough are followed. So, there's certain things that do have to be respected in that. I mean, I hate feeling like it. And that's not my intentions. It's just looking at this and what you're asking for, that you're asking for us to provide the water and kind of step back, and that we can't do that at this point.
And going back to you, Brad, I don't recall discussion of the walkways with the brick pavers.
Okay.
I think that was maybe a potential thing, so
Okay,
but now
well,
we
that's fine.
know that that.
I'm
would
just,
be a-
but it was in here and that's
Yeah,
just,
yeah, I didn't
that's
know
the
what
kind
that
of,
was.
anything permanent like that. I think we need to have
Yeah.
approval of.
Okay, cool. Okay, any other questions?
Not at this time. I think we're all gonna need time to look it over and see.
And if you could send me all those agreements, I'll start working with our solicitor.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. This time we'll have comments from the public. On public related items, please approach the podium or raise your virtual hand. Clearly state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Here, got the flyers for the Blossom Award. That's gonna go into print live.
Okay. Can you make sure that makes up 29 Barry? Can you make sure that makes sense, Tammy?
Stephanie
Garrett.
Garrett. Yeah, I have it. I'll forward it. to you.
Okay, that would be perfect.
And also, last time when I was here, I asked the council to support the chamber by joining us. So I'm gonna give the form to the people that hasn't joined yet. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all. Here we go. Thank you. Here, Liz. Thank you.
You mean individual as residents? You're
Yes,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
What
don't.
happens if you're not a resident?
You can still join.
Oh, okay.
Nice try.
All welcome on the chamber.
That's right. That's right. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
You are?
Put a little bit of
You want us to also the anyway. We need your phone number.
So that's it, Sherry?
That's it. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Sherry. It looks like we have Laura Jacko.
Hi, Hi, Laura Jacko, 437 North Avenue. I actually just didn't get a request into Stephanie in time to give anybody like a formal update, but I just wanted to let everybody know that we had our Shade Tree Commission meeting on the 17th. I have notes from that if you all want to hear them. If you're not interested in hearing them right now, I can just, share the notes to Stephanie and she can share them with council, but we came up with a request for council from that meeting as well. So I would at least like to present the request. So you all can let me know if you want me to go over like high level notes or if you'd just like to hear what we were looking for from council at this time.
I think if you just send the notes to Stephanie, she can now email them out to us and we'll listen to your request.
Oh, sure. Great. Thank you. Well, that makes it faster for everybody. We like that. We want to keep the meetings quick. So last year we had planted some trees along the railroad. So that's West Railroad Avenue. And it was between, I'm looking up the location here, between Grant and James Streets. And of course, they're going to need to be watered over the summer. It would be most efficient if we could ask the DPW to water the trees along that stretch since they have the equipment to do it. So we wanted to ask to see if that might be a possibility.
How often, Laura?
Once a week, in June, July, and August only. Those are the warmest and the hottest months where we really have dry season. Thank you for reminding me of that. I should be telling you when, Nancy.
Grant, what? I'm sorry.
Grant and James.
Mhm.
And they're on the railroad side?
Yes. so we're doing-
West Railroad Street, yes.
They're on
Yeah,
they're on this.
The railroad side,
yeah, they're across from Verona Gardens.
okay. Alright,
So we just wanted to see if that might be a possibility.
It's okay with me.
we'll talk with DPW.
You'll have to talk to DPW.
How many trees are involved? Laura, do you know approximately?
I'd have to go count them. It was basically, so there were some large trees there already and we just planted filler in trees. So like in between where there weren't trees. So I don't think it's too many. It's just along like that one block.
Would you say like 5 or 6?
I want to say like maybe 10.
And
Yeah. I'd have to go down and literally count them, but yeah, it's not too horrible.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
Thanks. Should I just follow up with Stephanie in a couple of weeks? Or does council need to vote on it?
Council's probably gonna need to vote on that.
Okay, so I should follow up at the next council meeting.
Follow up with Stephanie.
Follow up with me and I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Well,
Thank
we'd
you.
probably be voting on it in 2 weeks or whatever at our next meeting.
Who watered them?
They were just planted,
in the fall.
so they weren't watered yet.
Yeah, Nancy is correct. I'm not sure exactly what the question was, but yeah, we just planted them in the fall. So the nice thing is they've had, the fall and the winter and then now the spring to sort of get established a little bit. I always find that helps them be a little bit more resilient rather than planting them in the spring and then having them go straight into the dry season. But it's always really helpful for them, especially that first year, maybe 2 years, but definitely the first year to get that watering during the dry season to make sure that they thrive.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nothing else? Okay, we'll go to the comments and advisory boards and commissions, zoning board update.
Zoning board, they did pass 2 zoning variances at their meeting. Matt will have more information on that at May 9th. He is actually on vacation. But Second Street across from Cribs that used to be Roth Auto will now be an ice cream joint.
Is
Yep.
is the tire place not going to be there at all?
From what I can tell, it's not, but don't
Okay.
don't
No, no.
take my word on that. Matt would know way
I got you.
better than I would.
The only problem I have with that is me and Ray live so close that it's so tempting to walk over. No, I'm glad it's coming. I really am.
Yeah,
And then the other one was the daycare that's going into the church. They had to get it okayed because even though the church ran a daycare,
They were exempt.
it were exempt, so it's now going to be Cindy Frank's daycare. So both of them have passed. So I'm guessing building permits will be coming any day now.
Good.
And if you're on the zoning committee and you're sitting here listening to this meeting, we need your signatures on the paperwork so that we can get them back to the lawyer.
Do you know if the ice cream shop, there could be like a sit down also?
I can't tell you, to be honest, with you, I cannot tell you because.
I can, I was there.
It's curious.
He said he's gonna have seating for about 10 people or so, or maybe more.
Yeah.
But limited seating, but there will be indoor seating, because he plans to be open year round. And he doesn't look to be open until the fall at the earliest,
He hasn't filled out any building permits or anything like that, so.
yeah. So we'll be rolling you in here then, Dave, is that?
Oh, yeah.
So when we remodel, if we're doing a remodeling, we need to put ramps instead of steps. So-
Yeah.
Save on gas prices.
Yeah, right. All right, we'll go to discussion items. Another thing I have is the approval of the minutes from February 28th. We all got them. We got them in the email.
Mhm.
I'd like to have a motion to accept them.
I'll make a motion.
Oh,
Motion by Mr.
second.
Long, second by Dr. Carpenter. Any questions? All in favor?
Okay.
Opposed? Passed. The next thing is mayor's items. Mayor Recupero.
Thank you. The two quick things, the Chevy Tahoe is in the garage down in McDade's, it has some engine problems. Some of the lifters are bad, it's due to the engine itself, the 4/8 cylinders. It goes into 4-cylinder mode. At a certain speed and, it's not really meant for driving around town, at a certain speed, 20-25 miles an hour. But it's gonna probably be a costly repair because they gotta rip apart the upper part of the motor. A couple of the lifters are bad.
This was the, just so you know, this was the same thing that was wrong with it in December and we thought we figured out.
Well, you could disconnect them,
Yeah.
yeah, but they say that they're really not good for driving around like we driving around. But anyways, second thing is, the ALOM conference was 2 weeks ago. And one of the interesting thing was, excuse me, they talked about police cop consolidation. That was a big topic with a lot of communities. It is coming eventually. Some of us were at an event this past week and Representative Joe McAndrews was there and he says he's going to be working on some things along with fire, police and ambulance, we'll see what happens there. And I also talked to our county councilman Nick Patolis that represents this area. More and more departments are consolidating Brenham and Brackenridge. I'd like to go to that meeting. I don't know if I missed it or not. Because they're gonna have a public hearing on that. And they're consolidating. It was funny the other day, actually it was Friday, I stopped to get lunch at a pizza shop and I went in the little dining room there. There was a police officer there from across the river up north, more up north. And I just happened to tell him, I asked him, I said, hey, if you know anybody that looking for part-time work, I said, I'm hiring in Verona. And he busted out laughing and I joined him in the laugh. I said, I know. He says they had, they're hiring, I think, 3 up there. They had 15 applicants, half of them failed the test. The other ones couldn't pass the drug test, and I think they hired 1. And it's sad everywhere, it really is, but we'll see what happens. That's all I have at this time.
Can I ask you a question, Mayor?
Yes,
Or Stephanie, do we have an approximate cost for the repair for the Chevy Tahoe,
It's gonna be a three.
greater than 3,000?
I think it's gonna be right around three.
My prediction probably between 36 to 4,000, depending what they find. I mean, they diagnose what's wrong with it, but once you get into it, it could have a bent rod, then you gotta go even deeper. That was a very poor decision.
Yeah, I think we need to do a little bit more homework before we buy a car that can't be driven.
Well, I was against that vehicle,
There's a new one.
the 2017.
Yeah. it was-
Not
The newest one is the Ford.
Newest one is the one
Yeah.
that,
We've had good luck with the Ford Explorers.
Mhm.
the unfortunate problem is we made the wrong decision in December to not just fix it at the end of the year completely.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, before we purchase something like that, we should make sure that the car is driven at 25 miles an hour without blowing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it could go 4-cylinder, 6 or 8-cylinder. I understand how the engine works.
Yeah, it should have highway patrol car needed to be, we don't have a highway.
Should have never been bought.
Yeah. So my other comments, you guys, my other comment, was I was also there at Seven Springs, and the guy who is the police chief for the Springdale, Cheswick, East Deer combo, I forget, I think it's called Allegheny Valley or something like that, police department, I don't,
The Regional.
maybe.
Allegheny Valley Region.
Yeah, okay, all those words. And so that was interesting because I know that they have only been, they called it regionalization, consolidation, whatever you want to call it. They've only been consolidated maybe for 4 or 5 years, and it took them 10 years to get there. And so there was that, and then the chief from up north, they have a regionalized police force as well. So they are starting to pop up, and they did talk about and stressed, both of them, that once they did that, it saved money for all of the communities involved. So that's another plus in looking down the line into the future of combining with other communities.
Put
So,
more manpower on the street.
you're right,
And
and
they still have their borough buildings, and then a lot of
Right.
them use them as a substation.
substation,
That was only Allegheny Valley that kept their substations. The
Okay.
rest of them got rid of them.
well, but I mean, you can do it either way. But anyway, I just
And
wanted,
and nobody wants to lose their police, fire, ambulance, but it's coming to that. Everything keeps going up in all these small communities that it's getting harder and harder to, assume the, cost of everything. So, like I said, nobody wants to get rid of their identity, but it's reality.
It's not gonna be sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the same as schools. It's,
exactly.
It's time.
Thanks, Mayor. Borough managers items, Stephanie.
Do you want me to start with handicap parking?
Yeah.
are you gonna start with handicap?
Yeah.
Okay,
We received 2 requests for handicap parking. There's really not a system for how we do this. We talked about it last night. We've talked about it. Nancy luckily brought us back something from ALOM that sets a precedent that I really think we need to consider. But in the meantime, we had 2 requests. And I'm not sure how we decide.
you mean 2 more?
Yeah, 2 that we're discussing tonight that we discussed in public safety
Oh.
yesterday.
You're not talking about the other 2?
No,
Okay,
we own the 2 that we have the paperwork for.
I see.
The requests, essentially, both of them are on North Avenue. We went through the paperwork that everybody has. There's not a ton of paperwork to explain how it happens or anything like that, but the 2 requests were at 409 and I think 521 North Avenue. The question becomes, we have one at 405 North Avenue, 458 North Avenue, 523 North Avenue, 530 North Avenue. None of these, as far as I can read, in any borough ordinance is a personal person's parking spot. You can request it, but if somebody else parks in it, it's their spot.
Right.
My question is, do we have any limits on how many spots can be on a street? Because pretty soon, the 500 block of North Avenue is gonna be all handicapped.
Yeah, I don't believe we do have any, how many could be on the streets. We never ran into that problem. In the past years, it would be, here and there, maybe one, maybe two on, per street. But a lot of people don't understand, and we used to get calls that, so-and-so's in my, handicapped spot. And when the police would go up there, they would say, well, that legally they're allowed because they have a handicap placard.
Right.
It does not, give you the initial parking spot in front of your house. Anybody could, even, like Giant Eagle or anywhere could park at a handicapped, spot. And we've ran into that problems in the past, but as far as how many per street, I don't know if we could regulate that.
Yeah,
I
we say-
You actually can, there is an ordinance that we were given at Alum that actually does regulate that, that says so many per, how many parking spots, because you have to look at the residents who live there. I guess my suggestion is at this point, since at no time did we make an ordinance or no time did we make a plan, I don't think we can tell these two people no. But I would request, like adamantly, that we do we get on this, get an ordinance, get a plan? Because,
I think we should.
I mean, you're literally, trust me, if anybody who would have anything, my mom's in a wheelchair, I get it. But you're now gonna have one at 521, 523, and 530.
I'm guessing it's probably the number of handicap spots you can put is kind of the same as in a parking lot. It's
And
based
it's-
on how many spots there are, X number
Right.
can be handicapped.
And the other thing is, when we look through this and we started going through this, there are people who have spots from 2014, who even knows.
If they're
That's
still
the
there.
Question I have, maybe some other council members could answer this, but. Have we ever revisited handicap parking spots? Like if somebody got a handicap sign put up in 1980. And then it passed away in 1990,
They're still up.
is that sign still up in front of the
Possibly.
house?
Probably.
Possibly. We should put in ordinance that every year they have to, if we can legally. Like I said, I don't know the legality of that. Once a year, every handicap spot has to be reevaluated as far as their doctor has to resend in, for a placard again.
Yeah,
For a sign.
even every 3 years is fine with me.
That's what the A-Long.
Yeah, every 3 years is the
Is that
A-Lot.
what it says?
And then also requiring that you have to look at the streets. Because we really do, I mean, my fear is we're gonna have one street that's,
The
I
non-handicapped
think we
people
ran
that have a
into
parking
that
spot.
spot
Well-
probably 20 years ago up on School Street.
and you,
Not mistaken.
yeah, and you can, as long as there's a rational number of spots for the area, you're not breaking any laws.
So just keep in mind that that was a draft sample from Alum. It's not the end all be all of what we
I
have
agree,
to
but
write.
It's something to start with.
Right, it's something to start with. I would say, I mean, I know will be 3 on the 400 block. What was it? 405, 450 something.
Now we want it 409, 405, 409, 458.
So I would think that we would have to look at the street, look at how many homes have driveways, look at how many total residents
Can't do
there
that
are.
at this point.
Because what if you have hypothetically in a block and however many houses, I don't know, 20 houses, 30 houses in a block, 15 on each side. And you literally have 5 people who legitimately need a handicap spot. And we say, but you can only have 4. So that 5th person that applies, they're shit out of luck.
We can't restrict it now anyway, because we don't have any.
We don't
ordinance.
need full
Well,
seats.
I understand, but I'm just saying, you can't, I'm just
I
saying
think
for
it's- I think
future
it's a starting
consideration.
spot We need to get looking into.
We need to
but-
get looking into it because
Right.
my argument is, there
I-
is a house on here that has a handicap parking spot. And I'm not mentioning which house it is, that
Mhm.
actually does have parking.
Yeah.
So we need to start looking at that stuff. I'm not
Yes.
jumping off and saying. They can't have them. I'm saying we need to approve these two with
Yeah.
the caveat. That every single person that currently has one needs to understand that we're gonna. Visit this, look at this and try to figure it out. I know for a fact, one of the people on this list, I think is either in a nursing home or dead.
Mhm.
That was my question.
But I can't tell you that, I can't take away their spot because I don't know.
If-
Right,
If we approve these two spots, is there any way we can reach out to the other people on this street and make sure that?
Not at this point,
Not until we do
not until we
something
do it.
in
Well,
writing.
even if we do something in writing, wouldn't they be after the fact? I
They
mean,
have to
before the
figure it out.
fact
They
or
would
whatever,
essentially-
grandfathered in?
They would all get letters that say, from this point on, you have 3 years.
Yeah, I'm not questioning. I agree with everything everyone is saying. I'm just posing questions to
Yeah.
think about
You
for
would-
the future when we do the ordinance.
Yeah,
That's
you
all.
would say, you would
Yeah.
write letters and say, we are passing an ordinance, this is the ordinance from this point
Mhm,
on in 3 years.
mhm.
We will be requiring everybody who currently has a spot to give us
I
information.
personally look into the legalities of 1 year.
We can, and we can talk to Craig. I was trying to be lenient. I was trying.
Well, but here's the other thing, you have to also remember, how easy is it to follow that up every single year for the police or
It
whoever's
depends on how many-
enforcing that, you know? So it's a
It shouldn't
question
be
of
that
that.
hard. There should be a list on the wall there on a tablet that
Well,
these addresses have handicaps.
and then the fact of the matter is, we write an ordinance, that's gonna happen no matter what.
And
Yeah.
if we hire a code enforcement officer, we can put it's part of their duties.
Yeah, I mean, we can put it into iWorks
Yeah.
as one of the licensing things. That's not the issue. The issue is, because we don't have a policy, what I'm asking you now is, do we just approve these two?
I think that's what we need to do.
I
Go
think
on,
we have a
and
choice.
then
Yeah.
we say, starting from this point, we start working on stuff,
Mhm.
so we have a better.
We should put that into committee then.
It'll have to go, I took it to, we took it to public safety yesterday.
And
I'm not suggesting that we take away any
No,
handicap spots that people are currently using.
No.
I was just asking if there's any way we could look in to see if some of the other signs on the same street are old and not being.
Legal.
used.
unfortunately, because there's not an ordinance for us to go back on.
There's no record.
We don't have
But-
anything to say. You
It
know,
was for Ann Smith, and Ann Smith now is deceased,
Or she don't drive.
or she,
well,
well,
she might ride.
but
Yeah,
she might
but
still need the spot for
The
her.
people who
Yeah, some
voted.
that put her-
see, on the other side of the coin, and that's the other question you're gonna have to ask yourselves. My mom's in a wheelchair. I would never request a handicap spot in front of my house. I would never.
Yeah.
She doesn't drive. I shouldn't park there. So I
But
should.
you have a driveway.
That's not what I'm saying, Nancy.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
saying if I don't have a driveway, I would never request a
Right.
spot. Because it would be one time, once a week, or one time, once a month. That's me.
Yeah.
And we have to pick and choose, how are we gonna do that? If so-and-so says, well, my mother-in-law lives with me and she doesn't drive,
That's different.
and we're gonna have to talk with Craig on how that's all figured out.
But at the same time, if I have a handicap permit, I can park in that spot.
Mhm.
So still you're back to, well, your mother, or whoever
Yeah.
can't get to the car now.
Yeah.
Because I'm parked there in the handicap. So I understand what she's saying.
I think if we put it into committee, let's get working on an ordinance,
Yeah.
start with Craig.
And I'd
Get
like,
something
yeah,
shut
I'd
up.
like to have something done by July,
Okay.
yeah, you
You
know.
got that, Sylvia?
And
It's
I
up
think,
there.
I would think when we
Thank you.
do put the ordinance in, we could revisit the ones we currently have and say, we're reviewing them every 3 years. You've had yours since such and such a date, that's over 3 years, you need to renew.
Yeah.
You know, not the ones we're doing like right now, because
Yeah.
that would only be 6 months, but the older ones, I think we could review once we get an ordinance.
Is that something we can keep a record of in the
iWorks.
robotics program?
No, robotics doesn't do any of that.
I work.
But Cause they said they surveyed the sidewalks also.
It doesn't, yeah, robotics.
There's gotta be a way we can have a list
Well,
somewhere.
Few works.
Works will do it.
Okay, so it'll keep the record.
We can keep,
of when they
and the
apply.
fact of the matter is, it's really not that hard because I've been here 6 months and these are the first two I've gotten.
Yeah, it's not like you're dealing with hundreds.
And the reason they gave them to me was everybody was like, it was, I guess they gave them to you at one time, they gave them to the chief
Well,
at
the
one time.
Mayor is the one who.
Yeah.
approves them.
So you weren't, I feel bad, like I said, you weren't here yesterday, I had a ton of questions for you.
No, I had doctors appointment, I apologize. for
And I
the
feel
mistake.
horrible. I apologize to you because I wanted to talk to you about it and I was gonna call you this morning and a lot of things I was gonna do today just kind of,
All right, so we're gonna have public safety look into this.
but I needed a motion to approve handicap parking.
We're gonna do
spots.
that under,
Oh,
do
yeah,
that under
yeah, at the
action.
end, sorry.
Well, wait a minute, I have a question. If the mayor approves it, do we even need a motion?
No, he brings it to
He brings
council.
it.
Oh, you bring it, you don't
he
approve
approves that
Okay.
it's okay for us to,
it. Okay. All
I
right,
do all the research, so to speak, make sure they have the proper sign, license plate,
okay,
and the doctor's,
placard.
And,
doctor's notice.
yeah,
yeah.
and they gave us all that, so we have all that. For some
Okay.
reason, they came to us. They didn't even go to the police, they came to us.
That's fine,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Next, cleaning bids. You have the newest new cleaning bids. Vince and I met with the cleaning companies at the park. I would like to approve one of these companies on May 9th. I can give you a little bit of a heads up. Our current company between let's just say April and October, which would include the park area, would charge us $1,246. Without the park, it's $646. So essentially what they're saying is the spots at the park are as expensive as cleaning our building.
Okay, let me ask a question. I see the numbers and I heard what you said, but the way it's written in this thing doesn't make any sense to me. It says for the months, May 23 through December 23, $1,246, include cleaning of, so are they saying it's more because it's during when it's open,
But the park.
when
is
Cribs
open.
is open?
Yeah, we asked them to bid on the highest point.
Okay, and then when it's closed,
It's 640,
it's $646. Oh, I see. All right.
which works out to almost $12,000 per year.
Okay,
Coverall
okay.
is charging us. Same concept from April to October,
1246 was a month.
$12.46 a month during when the park is opening. So basically, they're charging us $600 to clean the park area.
Wow.
Coverall, April through October, which would include the park, would charge us $550.
Where's this, what page? Oh, I see.
And
Okay.
without the park would charge us $500. So they would charge about $6,300 a year,
What was it? Was it October?
I think $50.
$550,
Good.
I think it was 1236.
opposed to $600.
No brainer.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
What-
so
this-
when parks closure, you're saying it's 500?
Yeah.
Because I don't see that one.
I don't see it on here either.
Basically, it's probably because we've been looking at these contracts for so long.
No problem.
He added at the most expensive point and then told us what to go.
Okay, so the bottom line, the first one you mentioned, how much per month with everything? Per year, I mean.
Per year would be almost $12,000.
For,
I don't want to say no names out.
That's
I
okay.
didn't, I don't know if she
And
did.
we're gonna have to, because
Yeah.
we're gonna have to
That's
vote.
another one.
We're
Yeah.
not voting
We're
today.
not voting
no.
tonight.
No, the motion will go May 9th.
Okay, and the other one was per year?
Per year would be 6,300.
so 12,000 versus 6,300.
So my opinion is, I want you all to review these. We are not making an opinion till May 9th. But unless somebody tells me differently, I would think Coverall is the best. And I think, no defense to Kirkman, I just think Coverall is a bigger company, so they're able to. And they will actually, Vince and I had a long conversation. Coverall actually come and clean the building and the parks literally after we close. So they'll be in the building like at 9, 10 o'clock. I mean,
Actually said it was cheaper, the later they came.
the later they came, the cheaper it was, and since we're open 24 hours a day.
After the meetings.
Yes.
Now they're kind of.
Okay. All right,
So unless
Do we have references for coverall?
Yes, UPMC,
UPMC,
every building.
every UPMC building,
They clean on.
They just got 3 new accounts last week.
Yep. They clean all of UPMC.
Did we get a price for emergency cleanups?
Coverall is, did not, but he said that we would work something out.
Okay.
And then, Kirkman is $16 an hour.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but coverall is UPMC.
Yeah.
They do Presby, they do the Children's Hospital, like if I'm gonna take a reference. The Children's Hospital is probably gonna be the biggest. They clean the Children's Hospital.
Yeah, as far as emergencies go, you know, you talk like in the jail cell, somebody threw up or something like, we would just tack that on to. the
Fine.
Criminal complaint, you
Okay.
know, on that person. You know, if it was, cause they used to bring a car down to me, somebody would throw up in the back and believe me, I didn't do it for nothing.
I
They
would
just
expect
go
you
to
to.
court and hand in,
what do you mean you did?
trust me.
And if
That's
push-
hazmat.
Yeah, and push comes to shove, they
Okay.
will,
Yeah, they would take.
they
go
would
to
start
court.
it.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Next, just a thought process that you all need to start thinking about. Stephanie Garabay called me a few days ago. And she wants us to consider allowing them to do an animal vaccination clinic during one of the farmers markets, which I think is awesome. It would be in the late summer. The only thing we would need to approve, but we can't do anything until we get to date, is they have to bring the cats inside.
In here,
Yeah, they would bring the cats in the chamber, keep them in their cages. They wouldn't be running around the building. I promise, or they might be,
why would they have to come inside?
because cats are petrified of everything under the sun.
And if they got loose, they would at least
They would run,
maintain it here.
they would be maintained where out.
Having indoor cats outside that aren't treated for leukemia is deadly to the cat.
So they would ask to use the chamber. So I will get the date. I just wanted to know if anybody has any big reservations about that. We would keep the doors shut. Except I might keep one right.
You can keep 10 of them,
Go on. You keep-
not here. No.
But,
Team monsters.
so. I guess the only question so you're talking about in here,
Like right here.
and they would be vaccinating them in here.
Yeah, it's not like they're going to be,
So as long as they,
They're not gonna be in there for 10 hours.
no, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm simply saying. When you have to take the cat out of their cage in order to vaccinate them. So I would hope that the vaccinators
they
would
would.
have a pad or something, because maybe the
Tables up,
cat-
everything.
the
maybe.
cat could pee because,
Yeah.
and then that stinks. So
Yeah,
that's all.
No, I don't think that would be a problem.
Well,
These
Do
are vets.
we wanna take them over to the other garage? If that's a concern.
We let me see what dates we're looking at. And figure that out. They just need an indoor place. The thing that scares me about the garage
There's
is
so many places to
there's so many
hide.
places for them to hide.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whereas in here, you can shut all the
Yeah.
doors and they're basically trapped.
I'm sure,
That's even the hallway.
well, I was
If
wondering,
people had
yeah,
an issue with this, they can use
Yeah.
the history center hallway. It's nice and small.
It's nice and small, we could shut the doors.
Yeah.
They just want to know if they can come in the
Yeah.
building.
And there's
Yes.
no carpet there. It's-
I would, yeah,
I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it.
Okay.
yeah.
I do have one question. Could we have them set up in the borough parking lot, not the park parking lot, since we have no pets allowed in the park?
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, I'll have Stephanie do that.
Yeah.
This was just a
No,
question because there's a lot of people who can't afford to vaccinate their animals.
I think it's a great idea. I don't have.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely.
Control in the area, you know. Cats are reproducing like crazy, so.
They're like bunny rabbits.
Yeah.
There's one, there's 30.
And,
It's a great idea.
yeah,
Work
and
through the logistics,
I think
Can
the
they
other
spay at the
reason,
same time?
I think the other reason to keep them maybe out in the hallway is. Just down the line, if we have a bunch of cats in here and they have, people with allergies and coming to a meeting might be affected out there,
Yeah.
hard floor.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
We'll work
better.
it out
Yeah.
Between us and the vets and
Sure.
the best place.
Sure.
Number 3, and this is not a decision I want today, I will bring this back in May, just a thought process. We've received a letter about the community picnic. And if we want to give a donation, I'm assuming that we've done that in the past, I do not know.
They ask for an amount.
It's on the back.
It's on the back. So
So there's a wide range. You couldn't either, you know,
my assumption would be, I did check for Memorial Day, we give $200 to Memorial Day, so maybe $200 to the
Want to check
picnic.
and see what we did.
Why don't you see what we did last year,
Okay, I will check.
Yeah. no.
if you can?
Let's explore the,
But
for the community picnic. And there's a wide range like that. Food sponsor for 500 could be 250 for 2 different places. And, you know, as it says there, then the, you know, our logo sponsored by,
Trish, do you remember what we gave last year?
I actually don't recall a donation last year.
I don't know if we gave anything last year. They might have had money left over from the previous year where we gave like $3,000 or something for the community day.
I do want to caution, because we got into this earlier with the community newsletter, we had a lot of pushback from, a lot of pushback from the town about us working out tax dollars to support nonprofits. So I think we're kind of getting back into that same routine where
True.
we're giving money out to entities that completely have the ability to fundraise themselves.
And there's another way to look at this. They use Cribs Field, they use the concession stand. And
That is fees.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big problem if we say no. It was just an option.
I'm not saying we say, that, I'm just saying we have to consider
Everything.
what happened last, when we gave the community newsletter. Money so they could survive,
Mhm.
we got a lot of people complaining about it. And that's, and they have the right, that's tax money, there
A lot of people, I don't know.
Yeah.
was a lot of.
Four.
A lot of people.
for those of us who-
Well, she doesn't need an answer tonight. She just wanted to bring it to our
I'm just gonna
attention for
bring
us
it to
to
your attention.
think about and
Think about and go from there. STMP, STMP RFPs are out, so if you guys got all that, there's a whole bunch of alphabets. The RFPs are out for that grant, the strategic grant that we're working towards. The proposals are due back May 5th, so we have nothing to worry about there. This will become important in a few minutes, but where do we place job advertisement ads?
I guess any social media, the paper,
Well, the paper doesn't exist anymore.
But it's still do the trip.
the trib.
Trip, okay.
Guys are up on that Indeed.
I have Indeed.
Indeed.
The academy, is that what you're talking about?
Well, police and another job.
Oh,
There's also local government academy, Pennsylvania Municipal League, whatever PML stands for.
Okay,
There's places like that that are specific to municipal jobs.
well, that would be job, like the code enforcement job. So I
Yeah.
just need to use my great ability of figuring out what job is what and go from there. Okay.
Do we legally have to put it in, paper publication?
No.
Because
For
that's-
jobs, I don't know.
No, only legal notices.
Okay.
Just, yeah.
Hiring. Blues.
I am about to open the biggest can of worms ever known to man. Signage on borough property.
Oh, we've been over that many times.
How does this work? Because right now, if there's a sign on borough property, if it's in park, whatever it is, we're taking it down.
Right.
Used to. Before I was on council. Pittsburgh Indoor Sports Arena donated the use of their facility to one of our nonprofits fundraisers. In turn, they asked if I could help guide them to how they could get little like campaign road signs put up on borough property. I came to council, asked them how I would do that. They said that I would have to come and present it to council and ask them for approval to be put, to the signs put, and I would have to have a start date, end date, and I would be responsible for removing the signs when the end date is done. I came to council, presented it to them. I told them it was for a youth football camp over in Harborville, and they agreed.
Yeah.
That was the procedure I had to go through. And this is well, the council, I didn't know that wasn't written down, or there wasn't.
I honestly thought the only thing we did was didn't want political signs on.
Here's,
Well-
here's where my issue is going to lie. It's gonna, I think it, I mean, it's gonna sound horrible what I'm about to say, but I think it's almost gonna have to be all or nothing. Because what's gonna start happening is, as we start letting people do this, they're gonna say, but you let this person do this, or you let this person do this, or you let this person, and you know. Here, you know, and I kind of, you know, the argument came down, 2 signs were put at Cribs Field, 2 signs were taken out from Cribs Field. Not as any intentions of being mean, but have being told that there shouldn't be signs. The signs that were in Cribs Field was on the Cribs Field sign, like on the marquee.
They were in the field.
They were
outside.
but they were still on our property.
Okay, I'm just,
So they were outside. But that event was also on the Cribs Field marquee. Right now, we all know we took down the railroad sign because we didn't want anybody to get hurt. I have less of a problem with maybe 2 signs being put at Railroad Park, like in the mulch. But we have to figure something out because our guys aren't sure what to do. They've been told to take them all out. They've been told to take some out. We are not throwing any sign away. We are keeping them right now.
they're in DPW garage.
Well, I'll eliminate one area, you know, for everybody. It's sacred to this borough is the War Memorial.
Absolutely.
Nothing goes
Okay,
there.
but fine, then nothing should go anywhere.
Well, but it's always been nothing on that property. So
So,
that's ignorant of anybody to put a sign there.
well, you're in.
I think Stephanie's trying to find a happy.
Okay.
I'm
Definitive
honestly,
answer.
I'm honestly trying to find to the point where what goes and what doesn't.
I could put it on the communication committee agenda to. Immediately start working on a policy, kind of like the Cribs Field. Marquee sign
I mean,
and I'm city.
I have heard more complaints about what goes on Cribs Field and Railroad sign that doesn't benefit the borough. And then to think that events, how do we do that? And I'm not saying that any event that happens in this borough doesn't benefit the borough. What I'm saying is we're already advertising it for you. How many more? I need some kind of guidance, because if we don't have guidance, I get the political signs. Those are fine. We've got those. We're good with those.
Okay, can I just ask for clarification? So you're not talking about political signs?
No,
Because I was just gonna comment when I could, get in there, because, it's the way, it's kind of like what it is. The political season is here, it's 3 weeks. There is somewhere written where you have to have your political signs removed within 24 hours,
a lot of borough property.
but that's where people put them in certain
And-
particular areas.
Pulling them up.
Okay, and you're also talking about.
Then people can't put them anywhere unless they have
They can
permission.
put on any person's public,
And there is a thing for signs in Eco 360.
yeah, that said, no.
That it says that these are permitted kinds of signs, and signs that identify public or semi-public institutions or recreational clubs in the public or private recreation district and activities carried on by them. So if it's something that's going on in town,
That,
then they are allowed to put,
if it's borough,
it doesn't say borough,
okay.
it says public or semi-public.
Well, let's, they're
Or recreation.
Performance park groups.
The
Let's
car
do that.
cruise,
Car cruise, botany and booze, things that, events that are happening in town. There's signs that tell you
Elections are
what's-
public too.
No,
What
they're not.
do you mean they're not?
They're not because they're. trust me,
Everybody can
We've
vote.
gotten 5 complaints about people who put political signs in the parks. We take,
Political signs are different than fundraisers.
Yes.
Yes.
if there's a political sign, they're gone.
Because in a sense of, if somebody puts political signs in here, that means like, well, the borough sponsored that person. Whether it's a judge or council person,
Okay,
magistrate, whatever.
all right.
My opinion.
So
I agree.
you're talking about the parks
We're talking
particularly?
about any property the borough owns.
Yes.
Well, the borough owns all the property except for what they don't own.
Yes,
It's just every person's house.
yes.
Which
So
is every
if
person's.
people want to put
property.
political signs up, they
If
have
you
to
wanna
put them on
political
private
signs,
property.
put it in People's yards.
They can't put them on public property.
So is the right of way considered
Yes.
the person's personal
You're
property?
not in Plum, you are not legally allowed to put, it has to be in your yard. Period, that means on the side of it you own,
So not the right of way.
Not against the curb,
not against the curb.
that's a right of way.
And we've told the boys, if they're on any property that they mow, which means that's borough property, they come up.
They've always, yeah. We've always done that in the past.
And that's not changing. Because, like I said, we've already had a couple complaints because somebody put a sign up that shouldn't have been there. My question is, if that's what the ordinance says, I appreciate that, then we will make sure.
But
I think what I would ask though, for those activities, if they could at least tell us.
No, it should, like, I said, it should still be.
It's still
brought-
not
brought
legal.
council.
And if you could do that for me, that would be great, because what's happening is. The DPW guys are like, oh,
So what I'll do is I'll look at the ordinance
and
and
I'm
I
like,
will write policy,
yeah,
sort of like Steel City billboard and the Cribs Marquee sign where it says no personal advertisements, no business advertisements, but if it is and no political signs, but if it is a town or community event, then you will have to
Right.
come to the borough to ask permission to put a sign.
Yeah, looks like Red Top.
I also think we need, when you put in the policy, it should go in mulch. So that
If
Our guys-
possible, because there's sometimes.
Yeah.
in mulch, because otherwise if they're in the grass, that means our guys either have to take them out and put them back in again when they're cutting the grass
yeah.
or trim around them,
What if there's not mulch there?
then you don't put it there.
I mean, there's an argument
You know,
to
I
that,
mean,
that's
you know,
fine.
'cause-
Let's say Railroad or Riverbank Park, someone's having a birthday party, at Riverbank Park.
But
they
that-
would put a
But we
sign
got-
up like birthday party's right here, no mulch stuff.
That's
Well, we got the
different
new-
because it's only gonna be up for the time of the birthday party.
Yeah,
I'm saying, if they're going to.
So it's
be
not
up
gonna
for
be
the
affected by
term,
grass
They
cutting.
need to just find the best place possible. But here is the argument that I would give to you, Nancy, when you talk about political signs. So, let's say there's 5 people running for county exec. One person calls and wants to put an ad on the marquee, is that okay?
To me, you're talking apples, oranges.
No, I'm not, I'm talking the
Sure.
same exact thing, it's borough property, is it okay?
We have a policy on that sign.
But that's why I think we have to put this on this, but political, if I'm not mistaken, you just read the ordinance, there's no politics involved.
Well, all I'm saying is for the last 50 years, every time there's a political
I'm
Thing.
looking at 15 signs in DPW right now that have been taken down because they were always told to take them down.
Are we contacting the people whose signs have been taken
If they
down?
call, we will tell them.
Well, this is new to me because I've never experienced that happening in the past. People have been putting up signs for decades,
You can put, I guess I'm confused.
like over by the cut through by the carpet place there.
Yeah, that looks like.
But that always looks like that during the
Is
political
that for
season.
property?
We cut the grass,
Then they need to come up.
yes.
And there's like signs for Penn Hills and Fox Chapel and places that people in this town can't even vote for.
Well, that I don't know who they all are.
I know like 3 people.
I guess at this point. If we, so basically we're saying, if we take care of it.
They cut that section there and around, on the, yeah,
All right,
Where the guardrail is.
yes.
And the other side where the bushes are
Yes.
near the, that lighted up thing that I can't think of the name of it.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, okay,
Well, if they took any of your signs, call DPW and they'll give them
They'll
back to you.
return them. They're not throwing them away.
No.
They were told to keep them until elections were over. After that, they will be finished.
All right. Anybody else have anything else on that?
Just an update on paving, as you know, we asked for a grant for $264,000, and if you take the paper I gave you, there's a paving grant this side and then the payment on this side. Part of that money was to finish off Second Street, which will go to ARPA funding. Matt's questioning right now is, we got $100,000. How much Center Avenue, do we want them to bid the whole thing, see what it would cost, and then start cutting things off from there? Center between ARB and Second, because they're gonna do some storm sewer work. And then they were going to do some milling and overlay.
Right now, it's what, $164,000.
Yeah,
I got $100,000 grant.
yeah,
so that'd be $64,000 for us
yeah,
to pay out of pocket.
yeah.
The sewer work that you're talking about, is it going from ARB to Second Street?
It's where the ice builds up.
Right,
Yeah,
athletic.
yeah, athletic to First Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, there's something that, but the way they have the milling written, it's ARB. to Second.
My point is, that the board is, does from ARB to First Street really need done? I mean, it looks like it's in really good shape.
I'd rather look at Jones or I'd rather look
Here's
at
the problem,
its
you
front.
can't
Can't move
change the road.
Okay, so we have to use,
The problem is, you have to remember, when they start fixing the storm sewers, that pretty road that looks so nice isn't gonna look that nice anymore, so that part's gonna have to be repaved.
No, I'm talking from ARB to First.
Yeah, because you're
From
saying the
First
part
Street
that
to
they're gonna,
Second, I can see.
Yeah,
yeah, rip,
yeah,
yeah.
but he said that we can ask him what would happen if they just, and it might be less money.
Half the street.
It might be less money, but we can't move the money.
Yeah, that's big.
What's
I would
the,
use as much as we could.
Okay,
what is this 199,685 under center?
it's very hard to explain the whole thing the way it's written. But from what Matt explained to me, if you go down to grant requested.
Hmm.
The very bottom, it says 264, 581, 63.
Yeah,
You go down, so we got $100,000 of that.
yeah, but it looks like an estimate for doing the work further up where you have a star, that it's
I never mentioned that he
$199,000.
said it's not. He said there's some moving of numbers that can happen here.
So
And
I,
I will talk to
And
him.
we already discussed this numerous
Yeah.
times and
Yeah.
decided what we wanted to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, we voted on this last year.
Yeah,
okay, so we're good. Okay,
Guess I don't remember from first on the boulevard parts, I knew the upper part.
I believe Matt said it'll be cheaper if we did the whole thing as opposed to piecing it out. Because we were doing the storm sewers already, so the road was already gonna be opened up.
but from where to where?
From first to second, I believe, we're opening up.
Right, so what the mayor's saying is that then why would we redo the road from ARB to First?
You would have to ask Matt, because if they're.
there's a
if they're-
milling.
If they're fixing the sewer from second to first, they might have to fix it all the way down.
Yeah, we'd have to ask, but the other question is, do we have $64,000 in our budget for paving?
We do.
We
we
do,
already approved this.
We approved parts of it.
Right.
It's a little bit more expensive, but we can pull some of that out as we go. The fact of the matter is, no matter, as you're looking at this, this is what the grant is for. You
Right.
can't randomly decide now that we're gonna change it.
Just we could change.
well,
the
but he
way-
says here, he says we can reduce the scope, or I can bid it with a base bid and add an
Yeah, he
and
can
then add
reduce
a,
the scope, but that means it still has to be on center.
It just won't.
oh, I'm just talking about center.
Yeah.
I wasn't here last year, so I'm not clear on what you
He
guys.
said, because he can start the whole thing and then he would get it. If you read it really closely, he said we can bid out the whole thing and then pick and pull what we need to pull out.
That's what he needs to do.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
So we need more information from Matt on that.
Not, I mean, all we need from Matt is a bid and then we can pull out what we don't want to do.
Right. Is that it, Stephanie?
Are you finally done?
Okay, we'll go to finance, on the Carpenter.
Okay. We had our finance committee meeting, Monday, yesterday at 4 o'clock, seems like longer ago. And we didn't have a whole lot to go over. We are holding off on having a policy for spending limit for borough manager. Craig was not familiar of that happening in any other borough that he represents. So that's, we're not making a policy for that right now. Update on ARPA budget projects, as you know, the iWork is in the works and that's coming from ARPA. And Stephanie's getting information from a guy from the school on where we should go for updating this whole area for technologically speaking. And there was some discussion about this stuff that we just talked about for Second Street. And the audit is still, we're waiting for the audit. Apparently. And I guess we can, yes, and it's in the ARPA budget to finish Wildwood Culvert. So that's about it, unless anybody has any further questions for that. I have been attending once a month a training from Local Government Academy on finance and budget. And I've been sending the information to the finance committee. But if anybody else is interested in that information, there's videos I can share and the actual print, the PowerPoints that go along with that. Let me know, and I'll be happy to forward that along too.
Very good, thank you.
Mhm.
Recreation and community events, Mr. Craig.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot because our meeting is actually tomorrow. I did want to mention that we have movies in the park coming up. On May 12th, it'll be here at Railroad Park. It's gonna be at Sandlot.
Yep.
We are gonna, I've been working on bids for the tree work. We will be discussing that tomorrow and planning on discussing the community garden proposal tomorrow too.
Very good, thank
And
you.
also, we're looking at new policies for the parks as far as like the concession stand and things like that.
Very good, thank you. You might want to maybe, is Vince on your committee?
Mhm.
I was gonna say, because you started that all,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
policies.
Just update.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it's not new policies, it's just because we haven't had people renting the concession stand for seasons before and that kind of
okay,
stuff.
yeah, he was
Yeah,
the starter of that. I just thought maybe he had some input. If he wasn't gonna be there. Very good, thank you. Public safety, Mrs. Provenza?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. As far as an update on the Public Safety Committee, we were going to do the parking fees, but we do not have that completed. It's still a work in process. We're working on it. Yes, together we're working on it. And also, we are looking for a full-time police officer. And we have the paperwork here put together, the criteria of what we are expecting. So, we'll hopefully get some applicants that we can interview for the full-time police officers.
On their benefits, I would like to add, vests, and don't they get bereavement days also?
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's part of, you know, the benefit.
Well, I think
that's part of their
the process is just for us to look at, and then we can come back committee with our suggestions, right?
I mean, if you want to add vests, I mean, we just picked out the big ones, like everybody wants to know their vacation, everybody wants to know their insurance.
But from past experience, we've listed all the benefits that they get. The more that you list, the more inviting it is, you know, oh, okay, I mean, everybody gets vests, you know, full-time officers. The municipalities or borough pays for that. But we need to make it more inviting, and you also need to put in, applications must be turned in within 30 days or whatever.
Yeah, a time
It's
limit.
gotta have some type of turn-in point, because
What committee did this?
Public safety, my question is, why are we putting a turn-in time in? Because I'm worried that this is gonna sit for a while.
okay, what if we get, you know, 5 right away, and then we say, okay, let's interview them, and then the following week we get, you know, 10 more, which
And
we're
we,
not
and
going
we
to.
interviewed,
But I mean, where's the cutoff date? Is it, you know, if I turn it in 6 weeks from now, well,
once we fill the 2 officers' positions.
Oh, sorry.
we've always had a, you know, a turn-in date. Most, if you look at most applicants,
Not anymore. I actually.
Maybe,
took
maybe the
this-
mayor can sit down with the public safety
Yeah,
committee.
yeah, you can
and
tell us what that is. I,
Come up with all the,
because I pulled this from Springdale to try to come up with something. I'm worried that it's gonna sit.
what do you mean by sitting? What do you mean?
It's gonna be on Indeed and all those places for a while.
The deadline will come and we.
The
won't have
deadline will
anything.
come and go, and then we'll have to keep redoing it instead of just letting it sit until we're good and then we can pull it.
We need to vote on posting this.
We already did.
Yeah, so we,
Well, we voted on posting it, but we didn't vote on
We
the
have to.
specific ad.
We have to vote on the specific ad. And if we do, are we looking to vote on that at the next business meeting, so we can get this out of us?
Yeah, I would, yeah, I want it out.
And if that's the case, then I don't think we can go to committee.
Right,
Well, what's the compensation?
Yesterday.
right.
Station 45 to 55,000.
You just, all you have to do is take the number they currently pay hour wise, figure out what they make, how many hours they work.
I understand that, but I mean, is this including overtime or
There's some,
short time?
they're not the beginning wage. The beginning wage was if you work straight,
Then 55 would be over.
if you work overtime.
I think that's more enticing. Putting that. we're
21.50.
paying $5.
No, believe me, I agree that they're well underpaid.
Looks a lot better this way than.
I understand that.
Full-time at 2150 is actually 43,000 if you do the math.
And if you figure out there's holiday pay built into that, and so you can't take straight pay like that.
Oh, you're okay,
Because
holiday
they're working
pay.
24 hours, you can't take straight pay. I trust me,
But you know, my opinion would be, I would like to see under the benefits, everything that we have, you add in there.
And
Let them know.
I actually think instead of a compensation range, it should be like 45,000 plus possible overtime. Because if you put it 45 to 55, I'm coming in as an applicant and I have 5 years' experience, I'm gonna say I want to 55,000. You know,
You put in, like you said, part-time, you know, overtime.
yeah, plus possible
Stuff,
overtime.
you know, applies.
why can't we all take this home with us and do a little homework? And write these things down and get back to Stephanie by next Friday. Or something.
We can, but again, this is a workshop and the meeting is meant to be able to have discussion with all the council together.
I understand that.
Okay,
What else do you want to add it on?
I mean, but there's a lot of things that people want to add on. You can't think of them all on the top of your head. If you sit down and go over it,
I don't have the.
it's just gonna have to wait a couple weeks.
put in there,
The applicants that I've looked, they fill them up pretty good of all the benefits that they have.
And I believe we gave. Pretty good benefit package this year.
Yeah.
That's why you. should-
I mean, the
should-
problem with bereavement, there's a lot of like. I'll just,
Just, and just with bereavement, I mean,
yeah. I mean,
Bereavement.
it's not unlimited.
Exactly. Yeah,
Leave they, that's what they get. I see what you're saying.
Well, the more you put, the more enticing.
that's my point. That's what we've always done. You're absolutely right. You wanted to look attractive of it.
Well, if you think of something else. Let us know.
We're gonna meet with Mrs. Sheridan on. I'm gonna talk to her also.
Okay, that would be really
So
good.
then I'm just gonna give this to you then. And I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'll just give this to you then.
Give it to the mayor. Because it's not gonna make it to another committee meeting, the committee meeting was yesterday.
Yes.
So if we wanna vote on this business meeting. We should talk about this, so we have to.
Yeah, it won't be
we have
till
to
May
do it either
22nd.
Now or through email until, that way it can be done for this meeting. So,
I just don't wanna hold it up much.
no,
I mean, here,
yeah,
I mean, here's,
I want to get voted on.
here's the problem. I mean, I understand where everybody's coming from. This has been going on for 3-4 months now. All of a sudden, we want to put it up. Now, all these suggestions are coming up when we've already asked for everybody's opinion.
But we didn't.
But
see
this is
it.
the
But
first. we're
I
seeing
understand
this.
that, but did anybody get a hold of Mrs. Provenza, the safety committee, or Stephanie, and give them their suggestions? That's the problem. Nobody did. All of a sudden, we're ready to go to print with it. And now we want to change and add everything. We got to get on the stick here and be more proficient.
But the benefits should list everything.
I'm not disagreeing with you, David.
Automatic-
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I mean, we looked at the benefits that we felt were enticing. We can add the ones that you want. Like I said, we took a couple of police ads around the communities. We took their ads, we copied them, looked at what they said. and
But that's probably all they got, too. I mean, we probably gave it, a little more. I understand what you're saying.
I just feel bad because I wanted to tell them again, it's being put off. It's fine. I just feel bad being the one who has to tell them.
So,
They've been asking us when the ad's gonna go in, the police.
I've been trying to get, full-time officers since I became mayor.
Whoever you were, you pay for it, and whatever you think needs to be added, just so you know.
Well, I'm gonna have to get a list of all the benefits, that's
Right.
what I'm saying, it's pretty much, the only thing that I'm asking.
Well, so if we put the list of all the benefits, so we can just print. Put it in print. Like, why we just.
Yeah, I mean, everything else looks good.
I think I was fine as is, but whatever, we had to add the benefits, add the benefits and be done with it.
So-
Make it look like the vote on the business.
So I'm curious too. The full-time police ad looks so different from the code enforcement ad. Does there not need to be, because it's police and everybody knows what it is they're supposed to do, like general duties or position summary or anything like that? That doesn't need to be in a police ad?
No.
Like,
I've
okay.
always told that Craig to not put a job description with the advertising.
Well, there isn't a job that it just,
They're two very different jobs.
okay, I'm just
They're-
asking.
A police officer, which is very succinct, and there's a code enforcement officer, which each person's gonna have a different thing.
Yeah, I'm just asking because they look very different, and I know it's two different positions. But, it just. Most of my experience has been with, putting out ads for a borough manager. And it looks more like the one for the code enforcement, so maybe there's just different criteria for putting out a full-time police ad. I don't know, I'm just asking.
Can we approve if Stephanie adds all the benefits go ahead and put the ad up.
Are we gonna put the same benefits that the full timers have?
No,
now?
we approved her to do it.
On the agenda, we have to.
We already approved it. We already approved.
How
the
can we
published
approve
one.
something we haven't seen?
That's what we.
Here's my question, because I'm just getting frustrated at this point, so I'm just gonna point blank ask this. I think writing a job description, I mean, you hired me to do a job, if everything I do has to be approved. Why did you hire, I mean, this is actually becoming like, to me, like, I feel like I'm not, you know. I can add bereavement leave, I have no problems with that. But if everything has to be, I mean, we approved to put an ad in the paper, if I put bereavement leave and you guys are all okay with that.
Well, let me ask this,
When did
Can
we
we-
approve that?
can we, as far as the benefits. Come up with the list of benefits and have them in the office and just put under benefits. List is in the office or something like that.
The
Instead
only
of-
one that's actually truly missing. As I'm going through this is bereavement, and it would just have to say bereavement leave, you can't put
That's all I'm
dates.
asking. I mean, I didn't mean to make it a 20-minute discussion. I just think that the more you put in, the more attractive it is to get somebody, oh, well, they got this and this community's not offering that, but Verona is.
And that's not what I was saying. Please understand, I understand what you are saying. What my problem is, it seems like every time we turn around. Something different has to be approved, and I'm, it's
It
getting,
gets frustrating.
it's getting frustrating. I mean, I got yelled at because we took the sign down at Railroad. Because we didn't tell, even though it was a
It's a safety
a
hazard. It
safety
needed to
hazard.
come down.
I mean, I need to understand, how far, I mean,
Yeah, if we don't need to approve it, that's something I asked Craig, I don't think, if it was already approved before, then I think you can just put the ad.
Can you please refresh my memory when we approved it?
approved it in
A
March.
few months ago,
February, March.
Okay, I just wonder if maybe putting the horse before the cart and have the job descriptions,
So again,
then we
Nancy, then I
approve it.
ask you, why am I here? And that's where I'm at this point. If everything I do has to be approved before I can do it, then why am I here?
I don't think it's everything, but you guys saying, it just-
That's what it's seeming like.
well, these are job descriptions are very
They're
important.
not jobs, they're jobs.
I mean, job ads, yeah,
Job descriptions, we already approved.
no,
They're the-
Okay.
that's the-
okay, I said the wrong word.
I'm just saying, I mean, she's right, it's an ad. It was written. We already know what we need.
What if in the future, it's not everything, you do tons of things all day long that we know nothing about, and you just do your job. But I'm just saying, if you're gonna approve doing an ad, why not have the ad and then we approve it instead of approve it and then have the ad? Because this is what happens.
I think we're arguing semantics here, that's my opinion.
They should,
That's-
Do we want it to be done?
Equal opportunity employer or something like that.
I was gonna ask Craig about that. That I agree with. I don't have that in the other one either. I was actually
Yeah.
gonna send these to Craig. I was gonna send these to Craig tomorrow.
can we,
Yeah.
not, can we not vote on this tonight? I'm just asking, I'm not sure the legalities. Get the couple things in there, you send it out via email, and we take an email vote, but then ratify it the next.
Yeah.
I mean, we could take an email vote, right?
Well, you
I'm
weren't
fine. If Craig
planning
says
on,
It doesn't need proof, because it already was approved, I'm fine with it just sending that out.
Okay,
I don't even need it. If Craig says it was already approved, then it doesn't need to be formally approved. Then
I don't think there's gonna be a problem with adding an extra benefit,
No, I mean,
So
and I completely have faith that if we ask Stephanie to add that, she will, and then put the, we don't have to vote on it.
I agree.
It's kind of like, hey, we're gonna vote to approve the minutes based on these edits. I don't have to sit there and watch you actually make the edits.
okay, so Stephanie, you can add them things, get it together and send it out.
I'll send it to Craig. to make sure.
Send it to
Yeah,
Craig.
if it needs to be voted on in a public meeting, then we'll do it at the next business meeting. That's the only reason I said I thought we had to.
I think this is just one of the things. The consent.
Yeah, I mean,
Council.
it's
to
a-
advertise, yes.
Okay, we're done. Are we done with that?
I just say one thing.
Sure.
Dave, you want to look your paperwork over tonight and give it to Stephanie in the morning so she. can-
Well, she'll have the same thing as I do.
I just went through the contract when we were talking.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just the bereavements are one thing, invest.
Okay.
Yeah, I went through the biggest thing, the thing that was missing was bereavement. It was just gonna have to go under bereavement leave, because it's a little different depending
And
on.
then equal opportunity.
Yeah, and I have to ask him how that exactly needs
Right.
to be put in there.
Right.
Everybody okay with that?
I think, don't we have to give them that, like,
That and a gun we provide,
yeah.
So that doesn't even have to go in there then.
right.
And what about the turn in by so many days?
The problem is, what I'm worried about is you might be better, like I said, again, what I'm looking at is you might be better off leaving it until you get to the point.
If you fill the position, pull the ad.
You can pull the ads.
Right.
which is your-
If we have more applicants than less,
If we have more applicants than
It'll be a
we,
miracle.
I will buy everybody here a drink.
Buy me too.
Drink to that.
I'll buy you two.
While you're.
You can have mine,
Oh,
Mike.
you're- No, under the code. enforcement,
Yeah, same
so that-
thing, yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Provenza, do you have anything else?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Communications, Mr. Floto. That's all right.
let my list. We will be working on this tomorrow if needed at our committee meeting, but I typed up a couple, we've been discussing this for a couple months now. Actually, since last year, almost. I made a general text alert policy and a public response policy. I will just read them out real quick, if anybody has any edits or feedback, email me after the meeting and we will talk about it tomorrow in our communications.
Very good.
General text alert policy, this policy is for Berlin Council, Mayor, and any other board commission, any other borough of Verona. This policy is designed to help improve the lines of communication between individuals in the town and the public. If any of the borough has an announcement that needs to be sent out via the text alert system, then they should contact the borough manager and or secretary, and then the manager will send out the text alert. If the manager is unavailable, send out the announcement, and the secretary will do it. In the instance that both the manager and secretary are unavailable to send a text alert, then the council members and or mayor are permitted to contact Uriah Mobile and ask them to do it. The council members and the mayor will refrain from sending out general text alerts or contacting Uriah Mobile unless directed by the borough manager. And this policy does not apply to an emergency text alert. An emergency text alert should supersede this policy and be covered in the emergency management. So this is just for general announcements like maybe the secretary and the manager are on vacation and Dave needs to put out, or somebody from chamber needs to put out a text alert for cardinals, which is an emergency, but still should be sent out.
Do you mean the administrator, you mean Teresa on this?
Yes, yes.
Okay, because you said secretary, I didn't know.
Secretary.
Okay, no, I'm just, yeah, no, that looks good.
And the next one is a public response policy. This is more of a general response policy for text messages, phone calls, and mostly emails. I'm gonna skip the top part, because it's the same as the other one. It just says the reason for it. The second paragraph, if an email or any other form of communication received by a public official of the borough of Verona regarding official borough business, i.e. staffing issues, employee issues, policing issues, etc., it should be shared with the borough manager before replying about the said issue. After forwarding the communication to the borough manager, you should also respond to the original sender that the communication has been received and is being forwarded to the proper parties to be investigated. You can also tell them that someone will be in contact with them about their issue as soon as there is an accurate response available. The borough manager will then forward the communication to the appropriate parties, send an appropriate response to the original sender about the issue. And this policy is just to keep council members from replying to citizens of the town wrong information. They might say,
Go through
"Man,
the
there's a pothole on that street," and council members say, "I'll get that fixed for you." in reality, they're not gonna get it fixed for them.
Right.
They don't have that power. They can request it to be fixed from Stephanie and the DPW and council, but we're one of 7 people. You should never reply and speak for the 6 other people or the 7, including the mayor. So, we're gonna kick this around a little bit tomorrow in our committee meeting, if it could be spruced up a little bit. If not, then I'm gonna try to have this on the agenda for the business meeting to get them done fast.
Very good.
Thank you. I do some good work sometimes.
Hey, you did good, the, writing person, the person who does all of my writing for me, said it was well written.
Oh, thank you.
Teresa checks everything.
The last thing I have is website needs updated a little bit since council has shuffled. Like deck of cards last year. We need biographies and headshots for some council
Okay.
members. I don't know who, I know some of us have them, some of them don't. If you don't have a headshot on the website, please try to get one to Stephanie, and maybe just a small biography. It doesn't have to be anything great, just, you know,
Right.
how long you lived here, what your interests are, etc. Just to try to make the website a little bit up to date.
That would be you, Greg,
Oh, yeah, put me out in public.
you, Nancy,
Mhm.
Yeah,
you, Tim,
and all the new people.
you, Greg, and me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And maybe Teresa.
And we can put Teresa up there too.
And then also thinking about maybe it might be a good idea to put the DPW,
We can put
because
the,
they're the face that everybody sees all the time, so maybe AJ.
we can put them under public works.
Yeah, put some headshots for them and so what their likes and dislikes are and.
They're gonna be thrilled.
I mean, it kind of makes them more personal.
I will do that. I just think it's fun, because I know how fun they'll be.
I know. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Vince. Infrastructure and asset, Mr. Resnick Showalter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, everyone, for your patience with me as we navigate additional illnesses in this household. A couple items for tonight. I promise they'll go quickly. The first one came up recently, recommendation to paint the damaged planter on ARB. This is at the corner of Center and ARB near the eyeglasses shop. We were able to get a picture of it and look at it together at our last committee meeting, and we think it could be just painted and perhaps hammered out and be okay as opposed to replacing. So that is our committee's recommendation in regards to the planter. Stephanie, can you take it from there?
I got it.
Thank you. Next item was also brought up that the Riverbank Park benches will need repaired and painted again this year. This is something occasionally handled by volunteers. This year was requested that our DPW handle that. Our committee agreed. Back to you, Stephanie. Appreciate it. Next item was also brought up at the last meeting. There was a request to make the robotics road survey throughout Verona, that information publicly available on our website. Our committee also agreed with this request. Does anyone on council have any objections to making that publicly available on our website?
I just have to figure out how to do that, Trish.
I think, Matt could know how, he was talking about it, it was
Okay.
something that was actually talked about when we got the road bionics, that it was supposed to be put up on a website.
Yeah, there's no problem with
I'll
that.
check in that.
Mhm.
That would be great.
I'll just shove everything off. to the next one. That's it.
Thank you. Next, Healthy Nation Proclamation. I apologize, I didn't send it sooner. I just forwarded to all of council a request that came in and that my committee also reviewed last week. It is from the American Heart Association. They're reaching out to ask our borough, they're asking boroughs across the US to sign a proclamation in support of the CDC's Active People Healthy Nation initiative. I thought it might be nice to do at the bike derby. However, we thought it might be a little bit awkward to read something there since there's so much activity that's not really speech-based. So we'd like to try to do this proclamation at the end of May. So this would be at May's workshop meeting, the meeting preceding the bike derby. So I just wanted to introduce that idea tonight. So we'll be kind of going out of order a bit by hopefully looking at a draft at our business meeting to hopefully read at the May workshop. So coming to you soon. Any questions, comments on that? Okay, great. Last but not least, we also had some wonderful comments come from the public comment period at the ARPA meeting before our last meeting. So our committee, much like some of the other committees, reviewed some of those comments. We've already talked about some of the paving work that's coming up, but we thought that based on the public comments, perhaps we could work with our engineer and Stephanie to consider some of those requests for some of those smaller side streets that perhaps, as some members of the public indicated, have been missed in many decades, and make a concentrated effort to do our due diligence based on our robotics survey to really capture some of those perhaps little side streets and alleys and things that had been missed. I also wanted to remind everyone, I forwarded the results of the DOT survey that was mentioned during that meeting. So you should have all received that Excel document. A couple of the comments that were made in the ARPA meeting, as you'll all remember, were perhaps considering things like ADA curb ramps. So I re-forwarded that information to anyone who might not have had it, in case we do want to perhaps consider some of that. There's a couple places that I have in mind that we can discuss further, but I just wanted to share that information that we had discussed as a committee and with all of you as a whole, and see if anyone had any additional comments about perhaps including some of those side streets in our ARPA spending, as well as some of additional amenities not previously considered, I don't think, such as the ADA curb ramps. So thoughts. Go
So
ahead.
the only thing I was gonna say is POG, that ADA ramps is one of the things they love to give money to, so I will mention that to Matt. Cause they like to, that's one of their big grant dollar items. So maybe we can get more done.
Sorry, Stephanie, when you said they, who are you referring to?
POG, when they go through unused like DCED funds.
Okay.
Those kind of funds. So I will talk to Matt about that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I did have one area in particular in mind, which I'll talk a bit more at the next meeting, which is the Champions Project. So we're working on coinciding the paving on Sylvan Way this year by adding a pedestrian pathway and some signage and crosswalks. It was identified there that ADA crossings are lacking, which, as all of you are aware, is where the senior housing complex Demore Towers is, as well as numerous pedestrians and parents with strollers entering the Riverview Children's Center. So since that paving is happening this year, I would like to see if Matt could maybe consider using some ARPA funds to do ADA ramps there where it makes sense. Stephanie, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, do we know if Demore has agreed to any of them on their property?
I don't have an update, but I can get that for the next meeting. Any other comments or questions from anyone on council?
Nobody for Trish? Thank you very much, Trish.
Thank you all.
Hope the bug goes through your house quickly.
April's been a winner.
Okay, next we got community development, Mr. Long.
Yes, the only thing I have is the code enforcement officer job description. Or the advertisements that will go out about the job description about what 10 pages long.
Yeah, we're
Right.
This is the advertisement.
a little bit.
Yeah, Stephanie wrote this up. I did review it after she wrote it up. I thought it looked pretty good. So I asked her to present it to council. And I think that If anyone has any questions about it?
I wonder if we need to add that E EEO.
Mayor and I already talked about it. Like I said, before I would send anything out, I always send it to Craig, so.
Okay,
And can I just ask one thing about the salary?
Yeah.
45 to 60 plus benefits.
Yes. That's what we put in the budget.
that in? Oh,
If there are any, no more questions, then that's all I have.
Anybody have anything for Mr. Long? Very good, thank you.
So we can post this ad too then?
Yeah, as soon as I have Craig look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm all about, nothing goes out unless Craig looks
No,
at it.
I
if it's
may
something like
have
that.
Craig's approval, yep.
Okay, action items. We have we need a motion to approve a street closure of East Railroad from center to south from 9 AM to 8 PM for the Botany and Booze on May the 20th.
I'll make that motion.
First by Mr. Long,
a second.
second by Dr. Carpenter. Any questions?
Yes. What time does this start?
11.
11.
Mhm.
The last time we did this, I had, did we notify the businesses on East Railroad Ave?
Well, now that it's been approved,
It's what,
now that it's been approved, we will let them.
Now that it's gonna be approved, yes.
because, I don't know, well, some of you were here when, Intergroup, I let them shut the road down. There was a lot of, feedback.
Yeah, what the,
Um,
I think that was discussed, and I remember Vince, you did a street closure policy when you were,
That was before street closure policy.
right, and that was before that, and I believe,
Policy,
yeah. The people,
it states if it's in the business district, then we will try to contact the businesses.
I also think that this date of May 20th has been available to the community since like last, I don't know, fall sometime. So I'm pretty sure that the event center and Mechanic Coffee and some of those businesses that are affected are aware that it's gonna be closed on that day.
we just need to, let these people know again.
Yeah.
It's gonna be shut down and we're gonna leave the parking lot open. I'll have them shut it down from the Borough Building to South Avenue. This way they can use this parking lot over here. And we'll have a sign up at Eilers, up by Eilers by Get-Go, events. Event parking only with a detour sign going down to the.
Yeah, down the way.
Yeah. So,
Very good.
yeah, I mean,
Any other questions?
I don't have a problem with it.
I think it's gonna go over a lot better this year. A lot of pushback last year was because
It was 2 days.
2-day road closure puts businesses out. This, they never, they heard the businesses
Right.
and they cut it to one day, so.
And Stephanie, you'll make sure that the businesses get notified of these 2 days. Thank you.
Do a motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Any other questions? All in favor? Against? Passed. The next motion is through a street closure on East Railroad from center to south.
To James Street.
Okay, we gotta change that to James.
And Mayor, I'm assuming we'll do the same thing, not from the center, but from the Borough Building.
No,
You're gonna do it from
this
center.
parking lot will be used.
Okay,
And so will the grass area.
okay,
We had over 160 cars last year. I need to do.
no problem.
Did we talk to,
So let's get the motion first, then we can discuss. Motion to approve the street closure from East Railroad from center to James
I'll make it.
from 1 PM to 10 PM
Second.
for the Verona Chamber Car Cruise on August the 12th.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mrs. Provenza. Any questions?
No, I don't have any problem with shutting it down.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
I do have a question about action item A, though.
Too late.
No, I mean, it's already passed, but. Are we sure that Bobby Booz is gonna be all that room also?
They only get what they request. That's what they
They
requested.
requested from here, there, so that's what's there.
Right,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that,
That
and
was the change.
I screwed up on the car cruise. The way they had it written was Center Avenue to south and then south to James, so they had it in two separate pieces, so I left out James.
the mayor will take care of getting the street closures and all that.
Yes.
And so we need to let the businesses know about that. as
That's what I
well.
just said there,
Yeah, Last
yes.
year, Putney Foods, they had it blocked off here because
I just wanted
they
to
still
make
had
sure
that food
You
truck.
want to cut it short.
Yeah, no,
Tonight.
they still had it open in intergroup for.
And I actually think Botany and Booze is advertising the food truck at Intergroove as part of their.
Yeah.
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 If, you could tell Botany and Booze, I guess they're having food trucks.
Yes,
If it starts at 11, they need to be here by 10 o'clock, their food trucks, because, it becomes chaos. I know from experience, when I do the car cruise, if you ain't here by 1 o'clock, you ain't getting in.
I can tell them, I can give it as a suggestion.
what time does the car cruise start?
Car cruise
1
starts
o'clock.
at,
No, it starts at 4.
Okay,
yeah, that actually, what's at 1 o'clock
That's what I was given.
and the 10, I just realized that, thank you, Nancy.
What do you want that changed to?
that could be, them hours can be changed. if you-
Well, yeah, but the cars start arriving by
By 2.
2:30, whatever.
That,
can adjust the
fine.
times.
I'll take care of that.
We have a motion. Any other questions?
Probably doesn't need to be closed till 10 either, does it?
For what, Botany and Booze?
No, for car cruise, because they're,
Better to
they're
be
gone.
longer than shorter.
Open the road.
yeah, true.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
I need the motions for the handicap.
Hello, I got it written here. Oh, everything you do.
Should we do both or each separately?
Separately, please.
I'll make a motion to allow for a handicap parking spot at 409 North Avenue.
Motion by Dr. Carpenter,
Second.
second by Mr. Craig. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
I'll make a motion to grant the handicap parking spot at 521 North Avenue.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dr. Carpenter, second by Mrs. Provenza. Any questions? Passed. I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Passed.
Here's the only comment I make to everybody when we send these, we will send these out, give them the approval, but remind them that they're not their personal spots.
Right.
So that they don't call.
Well, we had that-
Say-
For the record, the plan Bs were approved.
Yes, we
So
already.
we can start looking at
started.
it. Okay.
Well, we had that problem overall. We had a function and there was someone on Parker that had a sign and a handicap, and someone that was at the function at the fire hall had a handicap plate and parked there.
Remember that.
These people come over and made a big ado about it.
Remember that.
And we said, hey, that's not your sign.
That's legal.
It's legal sign, right?
Is that legal?
All right, we're all done with the motions. Next thing's the announcements and information. Newsletter, Mrs. Provenza.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. The ads and the articles are due Monday, May 1st. And this is going to cover our summer edition of June, July, and August. So we're at the last hour now, so anybody, any articles or ads, they must come in real quick, so we can get them in.
Where do they come into?
They would go to Dawn Ward.
Yeah, you just go to Verona.
Verona Newsroom at Gmail.
Yep. And the next one is Chamber of Commerce. The next meeting is going to be Tuesday, May 16th, here in the Borough Building.
I don't think that's
No.
gonna happen.
It's
That's
not
election
gonna,
day.
That's election.
it's election day. And I believe Stephanie Garabay is aware,
I don't know,
think-
we just talked about it.
yeah, but need to find a alternate space. Sometimes they have it at Intergroup.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
check with Stephanie. I'll
Okay.
get it up, but,
We'll make that up, huh?
yeah, there you go.
They've done that before too, yeah.
Next,
Well, with the chamber thing, she has asked, please, if anybody hasn't paid their dues yet, please pay them, it'd be very appreciated. And farmer's market's gonna start Thursday, June the 1st, from 2 to 7 p.m. And she asked that I tell everybody that Ray Lucas, the balloon artist, is going to be there. Bull River Taco and Cotton Candy Creations. And if you know of any vendors that would be interested, please have them contact that here. Historical Society, the next meeting is going to be held on Thursday, May the 18th at 7 p.m. here in the Borough Building. And Gary Rogers from the Oakmont Historical Society will present the history of the Willows Creek. All are welcome. Twin Borough Ministries, the community dinner will be tomorrow, from 4:30 to 6:30. Will be hosted by the James Barnes family and friends and the Verona Methodist Church. And Shirley is still available. If anybody wants to call her and reserve if you need 412-828-3412. Lastly, ALOM. I spoke with the office and they sent out a big thank you for the people that did represent Verona at the spring conference. She was so pleased to see them. Thanked the ones that came very much. She said it was good to see everybody. And of course, it was a successful weekend. And the thing they're working on now is the annual golf outing that's going to be held on Monday, June the 5th at the Diamond Run Golf Club, which is in Sewickley, Pennsylvania. And in closing, if there's any comments or questions, glad to take them. And if not, concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have one announcement. I want to thank the litter getters in Allegheny Greenways for this past weekend, Earth Day cleanup around town. I think they did a beautiful job.
Yes, they did.
And with Allegheny Greenways in the lousy weather Saturday.
Comments from the public? This time, council will hear comments on public related items. Please approach the podium or raise your virtual hand. Clearly state your name and address and limit your comment to 3 minutes. I see nothing.
No virtual hand for this.
No virtual hand. I'll need a motion for adjournment. Mr. Long. Second by Mrs. Provenza. Any questions? All in favor? Against? Passed. Thank you, everybody, for coming and being with us tonight.
I have never raised that.